Today we're checking out the KBDFans KBD67 Lite R2, a roughly $100 65% keyboard, newest on KBDFans roster. If you guys want to know my thoughts and opinions on this board, stick around till after the break. Welcome back. This review is specifically on my KBDFans provided KBD67 Lite R2. I was actually thinking of doing an R1 review as well, but at the time of this video, R2 is currently in group buy and R1 is only available on select locations. I don't expect the R1 units to make a comeback, so making an R1 review would seem rather short-lived. As far as I've experienced, the main differences between the two are as depicted on the KBDFans website. You now have the option for a wired or wireless PCB. Stabilizers are now the KBDFans branded polycarb stabilizers. The plate is now injection molded. The kit is no longer assembled. And last but not the least, there are additional colors. With differences out of the way, let's talk about the features. The board itself has a gasket mount design with a 6-degree typing angle and blockered arrow keys. Internally, my PCB is the KBD67 Mark II RGB V2, and it supports USB-C, in-switch per key RGB, ESD and overcurrent protection, and it is hot swap. Let's start by looking at the carrying case. This is not exclusive to the KBD67, and you can actually purchase this for around 35 bucks. This is a relatively compact black case with a nice subtle KBDFans logo. From the outside it looks fine, but don't let this deceive you. It comes with this flimsy insert that is relatively easy to deform, most especially this compartment for the cable. In my opinion, this provides the most barest of protection. Don't put heavier boards in this. However, the biggest annoyance was the zippers. They can't seem to be zipped around corners as easily, and I struggled a bit getting it done. The overall quality is so poor that I would have preferred that KBDFans not include this and instead take that $35 off the price tag. Anyway, let's see what's inside. The kit itself comes with the coiled USB-C cable, extra screws, and a case disassembly tool. You'll still need a Phillips head to screw the PCB to the plate though. It also comes with this little card explaining how to properly install switches without damaging your hot swap sockets. Please follow these instructions, because it really sucks that after you've built your board, only to find out that your PCB is broken. The keyboard chassis is a 2-piece ABS injection molded plastic design with the screws going in through the bottom. You'll see that there are also threaded inserts to protect the plastic from stripping when you assemble and disassemble your board. These inserts are only available on the translucent cases like mine, but are completely invisible on other units. Despite the supports that KBDFans put in the mold, many people who own the R1 have reported that their units have slight warpage. Thankfully, my keyboard exhibits none of that, but your mileage may vary. You'll also see that once assembled, there might be a slight gap between the top and bottom housing. Once again, this is due to warpage, but is thankfully not very visible on translucent units. You can see it more clearly on the black and white. On the bottom, there's the KBDFans logo in Comic Sans. Yes, Comic Sans. Good thing it's on the bottom and not so noticeable because it looks really ugly to me. I honestly would have preferred the same logo as what's on the carrying case, or even what was on the KBD67 Mark II. There are also 4 positions to put rubber feet. Quick note on that. Due to having a plastic case, the overall keyboard is flexier. By putting on rubber feet, you introduce additional flex that can be felt when typing. I kept mine on, but do whatever feels best to you. As mentioned earlier, round 2 should come with the KBDFans branded polycarb stabilizers. However, due to manufacturing not being done, I was sent the regular KBDFans screw and cherries. If you caught my build stream, you'll see that I upgraded them to Durock V2s, as dealing with popped wires is a huge pain in the butt. This upgrade is not necessary for operation, but I highly recommend getting these, or C3s, as they reduce rattle, the chance of wire poppage, and they're smoother. I'd even argue to upgrade even if you get the PC stabs. The plate is injection molded and made out of polycarbonate. Unlike the R1 plate with separate standoffs, the R2 has the standoffs molded in. This way you only have to screw in one side of the PCB, resulting in a faster build experience. I also noticed this was harder to fit in the case than the R1 plate. I don't know if this is an issue with it being thicker, or whether or not the injection molding introduced similar warping to what I see in the case. As usual, your mileage may vary. On the aluminum KBD67 Mark II, screwing in the PCB to the plate added unwanted stiffness to the typing feel. However, due to the polycarb plate and the gasket-mounted nature of this board, I felt none of that. In fact, this felt extremely nice. Based on my tests, the plate is only a hair thicker and noticeably stiffer compared to R1. Fortunately, the added stiffness is not noticeable without abusing your keyboard. And the thicker plate seems to add a deeper and bassier timbre to your keyboard's sound profile. If you're thinking of not screwing in the PCB to introduce additional flex, I would highly suggest not to. If a hot swap board is only secured to a plate by the switches, over time, your repeated typing will loosen the switches from the hot swap socket, and in some instances, loosen the joints connecting the hot swap socket to the PCB. However, I have been told that the dampening foam and ribbing on the bottom case provides the necessary support, but as usual, I'd rather be extra cautious on this. The KBD67 Lite features a silicone dampener that doubles as both mounting and dampener sitting between plate and PCB. This silicone dampener is very thick and durable, and is the heaviest part of this kit. Some people like removing the included dampeners to tune the sound to their preference. However, as the dampener is part of the mounting, you will not be able to do this. You can, however, trim the side gaskets. This lessens some of the dampening effect and gives it more thock and more flex, according to some people. I'm keeping mine the way it is because I love how this board feels stock. There are 4 PCBs that can fit in this case. You've got the original KBD67 Mark II soldered PCB, and the 2 KBD67 Mark II RGBs, V1 and V2, and last but not the least, the upcoming Bluetooth PCB. The one that came in my review unit is the KBD67 Mark II RGB V2. At the time of this review, only the soldered KBD67 Mark II and the V2 have ESD and overcurrent protection. In terms of software, my wired PCB supports QMK and VIA, with VIA enabled direct from the factory. You do not need to flash this board once you get it, just open up VIA and plug your board in and it should be automatically detected. However, the RGB lighting can only be controlled by using QMK keycodes that begin with RGB, such as RGB tog to toggle your RGB lights on and off, RGB mod to cycle through the available modes, and the RGB codes for hue and saturation to adjust colors. You can find all of this in the QMK lighting tab. I do need to mention that the Bluetooth PCB will only support TMK and YDKB.io's online GUI. TMK is the predecessor to QMK and is in fact what QMK is forked off of. At this time, I've not been able to find the source code for this PCB. However, as TMK uses the GPL open source license, the source files have to be made available to customers when hardware is delivered. So I'm looking forward for this to be finally online and accessible for all to see. Based on my perusing of YDKB.io, it seems like you create a key map and then download a firmware file. After resetting your board, it should appear as a USB drive of sorts. You can then drag and drop the firmware file you made. This is quite similar to how the TDA68 and several Matrix boards functioned. Seems rather straightforward, and I hope that is indeed true in practice. One flaw with those boards is that the bootloader did not check against overly large file sizes. So if you flashed an incorrect firmware file, perhaps one larger than intended, you'll end up bricking your board. To recover from this, you would need to reflash your bootloader. I sincerely hope this is not the case for the Bluetooth PCB. Over the years, KBDFans has provided a very convenient and affordable way to enter the custom keyboard market. However, for the most part, their boards can be classified as entry-level. Don't get me wrong at all, but they're pretty good when viewed through that lens, but not great through the lens of an overall custom keyboard market with like high-end boards in the $500, $600, $700 range. I bought a few KBDFans products for myself, and I've built quite a few for others. But to be honest, none of their products really impressed me. Until now. For a roughly $109 board, I was seriously expecting the entry level of entry levels. Instead, I found a board that I'm very happy with and is perhaps the best KBDFans experience I've ever had. I believe this to be the best KBDFans product KBDFans currently has for sale. I built mine with milky top Gateron yellows, and I've achieved this very thocky sounding keyboard with a good amount of flex. I was honestly concerned about the case being ABS, as polycarb is usually advertised as the plastic of choice for a nice deep sounding typing. I've actually been dailying this for the last week as it's been such a joy to type on. I really love how it looks, really love how it sounds. However, if you caught my build sim, you know that I'm not too big a fan of the translucent Tiffany colorway. I think what I'm going to end up doing is taking the internals of this and putting it in my white R1. Yes, it is compatible. The R1 and R2 case are built from the same molds. There are actually only a few things I'd change about the board, and none of them are really about the board itself. Number 1. KBDFans, consider not selling this with the case and taking $35 off of the price tag. Number 2. Get a more consistent KBDFans logo and not in Comic Sans font. Number 3. Let's get more colors. I know the current group buy has new colors, but I guess I've just been really impressed by the colors available from my NK65 entry edition. I'd love to see more of this. Anyway, overall, this is a wonderful 65% kit. I really think KBDFans hit a home run with this. It's even better than their aluminum edition. $109 gives you a board that not only sounds good, feels good, and looks good, except for that Comic Sans font. Also, if you plan on carrying your board around, please consider looking at other carrying cases. I'd also recommend updating the provided stabs. Anyway guys, thanks a lot for sticking around and watching this video. Hopefully you've gotten enough information to decide whether or not the KBD67 Lite R2 is the right 65% for you. Anyway, let me know if you have any questions down in the comment section down below, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye now.